soup? Yeah. Can you take my just couldn't do it. Noodles or rice.
Not even rice. I'm going to interrupt the friendly discussion here. It's so nice to have this in the chambers, people that are happy to see each other on this wonderful night when we're getting together for a business meeting. And it's nice to see my colleagues again after the 5 o'clock committee of the whole meeting. So we are now going to call to order the Kalamazoo City Commission meeting for Monday, February 16th, 2026. Clerk Borling, please call the roll.
Commissioner Hess.
Present.
Commissioner Hoffman. Commissioner Pradle.
Present.
Commissioner Slaby.
Present.
Commissioner Wilson.
Present.
Vice Mayor Duncan.
Here.
Mayor Anderson.
Here. Thank you, Clerk Borling. And may I please have a motion to excuse Commissioner Hoffman?
So moved.
Motion made by Commissioner Pradle,
Second.
supported by Commissioner Slaby. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion passes. Thank you so much. So we have, for our opening ceremony tonight, we always start with an invocation. We're blessed to have Chaplain Michael Kemple here for that. Just a couple quick things. That we also have a couple very important proclamations this evening, so we'll get to that as well. And I just want to let everyone here in the chambers and everyone who's watching know that we are blessed to have our Assistant City Attorney with us this evening, Sarah Van Hefty. Our City Attorney, Leal, is out of town this evening. So when we do have the invocation, I'll ask Chaplain Kemple to come up in just a moment. I'll just ask everybody to please stand here in the chambers and then remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Chaplain Kemple.
Thank you, Mayor Anderson. Thank you, City Commission. Such a privilege to be here before you, to have the opportunity to pray. Thank you for your leadership here in our city. I also want to remember my dear friend who's one of the reasons I love coming here, and that's Chaplain Marcus Mays. We miss him a lot, but he was a mentor to me and helped direct me. And so I thank you for this opportunity. I pray, Lord God, for the meeting that will be happening here tonight. There are multiple things on the agenda, and I thank you for each man and woman that's involved in this commission. Thank you for the way that you lead and direct and guide. Lord, your word says that there is faith, and there is hope, and there is love, and the greatest of these is love. And I pray that each man and woman here will understand and sense your love as you lead them and you direct them in decisions that they'll make. Give them wisdom. Give them grace. May they have compassion. Because, Lord, you place leaders in their positions. And even though our community is so diverse, not even though, that's a blessing. And we're thankful for that. We're thankful that this is Black History Month, and we celebrate that as well. Lord, I hear that there are great proclamations that are being given tonight. I pray a blessing on everyone involved. Lead us in the way that we should go. We'll give you all the glory. In Christ Jesus, I pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America,
And to the
republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you again, Chaplain Kemple. I know he told me he felt bad, but he was going to have to leave right after the invocation. We have a couple proclamations, like I said this evening. The first one is the NAACP Founders Day, and that proclamation is going to be read by Vice Mayor Duncan. I have the proclamation here, so whoever is in the chambers that's here to accept this proclamation, please come forward, and I will come down with the official copy of the proclamation. Vice Mayor.
NAACP Founders Day. Whereas February 12th, 1909 is recognized as the Founders' Day of the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, NAACP. This year marks 117 years the NAACP has spent fighting against the racism and discrimination throughout communities nationwide. And whereas this significant occasion honors the vision, perseverance, dedication of the diverse individuals who founded the NAACP. And whereas the NAACP is the largest and oldest civil rights organization in the United States and continues to be the leading force in advocating for civil rights and social justice, driven by over 500,000 members, and whereas the NAACP has worked tirelessly to eliminate racial prejudice, ensure political, educational, social, and economic equality, and secure the rights guaranteed in the Constitution for all citizens. And whereas the Metropolitan Kalamazoo branch of NAACP has made significant contributions to our community through advocacy, education, and outreach that promote unity, equity, equality, and justice. In our whereas Metropolitan Kalamazoo NAACP is dedicated to advocating for equitable policies that foster inclusivity, fairness, and justice in all municipalities with an intentional focus on our most disenfranchised communities. And whereas February 12th, 2026 is an important date in American history. This year marks the 100th anniversary of Black History Month. Originally established as a Black History Week by Carter G. Woodson in 1926, the week has chosen to coincide with the birthdays of Abraham Lincoln and the Honorable Frederick Douglass. Black History Month serves as a vital reminder of the contributions and struggles of African Americans. The entire month is dedicated to recognizing and highlighting the significant contributions of African Americans in the United States. It is celebrated annually in February in the United States and Canada since 1995. Now, therefore, on behalf of the 56th City Commission, I, Drew Duncan, Vice Mayor of the City of Kalamazoo, do hereby proclaim February 12th, 1909 as NAACP Founders Day in the City of Kalamazoo, and encourage all residents to join in honoring the NAACP's legacy, supporting its mission, and committing to the ongoing pursuit of justice and equality for all.
Thank you all so much. And so on behalf of this wonderful body of people, it's not a windy thing, but it is a branch, a membership thing. And so with me, I have some of our executive committee members, but also some of our regular branch members who are here to support. We have branch members, life members that sit up here with this commission. It means a lot to be recognized for the work that we do, because it gets difficult, it gets tiring, and you know, I wear many different hats when I come here. Sometimes I think you guys are happy to see me, sometimes I don't think you are, but it is what we have to do as we continue to do the work that we do, fighting for justice, fighting for equity, fighting for equality, and it's what we will continue to do because it aligns with the mission of this commission. And we do expect accountability, and we have to hold each other accountable. So again, on behalf of the Metropolitan Branch of the NAACP, we say thank you. Turn this way. You want to turn this way? Dave, you don't know what you want. Back in.
And And next, we have the Black History Month 100th Anniversary Proclamation. If you're here to accept this proclamation, will you please come forward? Okay. Okay. Thank you all for coming here. And you may know that Commissioner Stephanie Hoffman worked diligently to get this on our agenda tonight, and she was not able to be here with us tonight, so we lift her up in prayer for her well-being. For the Black History Month 100th anniversary, whereas 2026 marks the 100th anniversary of the first celebration of Negro History Week, initiated in February 1926 by a renowned scholar, educator, and founder of the Association for the Study of African American Life and History, Dr. Carter G. Woodson. And whereas the City of Kalamazoo and Commission take pride in joining community members throughout the country in recognizing February 2026 as Black History Month and honoring the year 2026 as the 100th anniversary of Black history. And whereas Dr. Woodson established this observance, aiming to encourage the study of African American history and ensure that the contributions of Black Americans were recognized as a fundamental part of our nation's history. And whereas the Association for the Study of African American Life and History has named the theme of Black History Month in 2026 to be A Century of Black History Commemorations. This theme celebrates that what began as a week-long observance of Black contributions to history and modern culture in 1926 has over time become the Black History Month we know today. And whereas inequities, white supremacy, and injustices still impact our cities, states, and country, it should be the aspiration and responsibility of every community member to advocate so that hope, equity, abundance, and love are infused in our policies and practices. To build the beloved community, as spoken about by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., we encourage all to recognize, acknowledge, and confront continuing inequities by eliminating barriers with unwavering courage and determination to reduce racial disparities, so that we may realize equitable outcomes of health, wellness, employment, education, and opportunities for our Black community members and children are vital for continued advancement. And whereas the City of Kalamazoo is proud to honor the history, contributions, and achievements of our Black community members locally, nationally, and globally. We uplift our local Black community members, leaders, clergy, organizers, educators, historians, violence interrupters, caregivers, educators, medical and health workers, business owners, agricultural workers, professionals, valuable manual workers, and elected officials, also community nonprofits, organizations, and congregations who work tirelessly for civil rights, to ensure that our community thrives, and all others who promote well-being, knowledge, and community engagement throughout the many facets of our Black community as part of our whole inclusive community. We remain committed to honoring and implementing equity, inclusion, anti-racism, mutual respect, and collective care throughout our community. And whereas, for a century, this commemoration has evolved from a week to a month-long national observance, providing a dedicated time to honor the vast contributions of Black Americans to the arts, sciences, business, education, and beyond, for the ongoing struggle for equity and civil rights. And whereas, the 2026 national theme, A Century of Black History Commemorations, highlights the impact of Black history on the modern world and acknowledges the leadership, resilience, and brilliance of our Black community. And whereas We reflect on the significant strides made by our Black ancestors for us toward a more just and equitable society. We remember our local Black leaders who have passed away, and we honor their positive work, that their positive work continues to impact our community for generations. While acknowledging the continued work, including our local Black community members, workers, leaders, and elected servant leaders, to further overcome systemic injustices and ensure the beloved community for all. Now therefore, on behalf of the 56th City Commission and David F. Anderson, Mayor of the City of Kalamazoo, I do hereby proclaim February as Black History Month in the City of Kalamazoo. I encourage all residents to join in celebrating the 100th anniversary by recognizing the achievements of Black Americans and reaffirming our commitment to a more inclusive, equitable, and thriving Kalamazoo community, and to celebrate Black history all year. Signed, David F. Anderson, Mayor. Thank you.
To Mayor Anderson and Vice Mayor Duncan, to City Manager Hankins, and just to the City Commissioners, thank you for the honor of responding to such a critical proclamation. While we understand proclamations are not policies, we do feel 100 years of Black history, especially when history is being threatened to be erased, needs to be lifted in our city. Black history is American history and should be celebrated all year long. So in honor of those who have passed on and those still with us, who have sown into the civil rights of our city, including you and many others, we honor 100 years of Black history. We also acknowledge the disparities and injustices still persist, so our work continues collectively. As we together work to build the beloved community, let us remember that no one is free until we are all free. To God be the glory for the things he has done. We thank God for 100 years of Black history, and as Maya Angelou so eloquently states, and if you allow me to make it plural, as we look back and as we celebrate 100 years of Black history and the amazing accomplishments in the face of opposition, and still we rise. Amen.
Nope, that's all right. Here.
Oh, thank you.
I want to provide a special thank you for everyone who did come down here for the proclamations. These are formal ceremonies, but also very important reminders to live what we proclaim and believe every day going forward. So thank you for coming here. Commissioners, we are now down to the adoption of the formal agenda. Commissioners, are there any items on G, the consent agenda, that you would like to move to H, the regular agenda?
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Could we please move? We've had pretty considerable communication in the last few days regarding G11, and I was wondering if there's any way we could move that to the regular agenda.
Okay. G11 moved to the regular agenda. Any other changes, Commissioners? All right, the agenda stands as adjusted. And we are now down to communications. Manager Hankins.
Thank you, Mayor. First, thank you again for all those who came out tonight in honor of Black History Month and the NAACP's recognition. I appreciate seeing you. A few things I'd like to give to the council, to the commission. Our Imagine Kalamazoo 2035 Design It continues. And so that effort has been ongoing. I think we've had 7 meetings so far in the community. I got a thumbs up that I was right on that. We have about 7 more that we will continue to have. Thank you for participating in that process. It's an opportunity to hear directly from residents in the community about what you'd like to see for your future in Kalamazoo and your specific neighborhoods. So please continue to show up for those as you can. I'll reserve the rest for my manager's update.
All right, thank you so much. Now is the time on our agenda for public comments. Just as a reminder, this is a time for anyone who's here in the chambers to provide a comment on a topic that is important to them. You'll have 4 minutes. Please state your name and whether you live in the city.
Edward Nickerson. I live in the city of Kalamazoo. Just a minute, let me think. You talked about taxes, and don't the people in the city of Kalamazoo that own homes deserve tax breaks? Well, when they give a person food stamps that has $1 million in assets, when somebody's poor and gets hardly anything, maybe you guys ought to look into that. And on this recycling, these electronics and computers and TVs, how much gold and silver is going to be pulled out of these, and how much is going to go into the employee's pocket instead of into the city's pocket? And there might be even some other stuff in them things that are worth money. Think about that. And I was just messing with you about Mr. Anderson. He owned the Ponderosa Ranch. I knew him.
Thank you. Next, please.
Hello, my name is Kay. I am bringing something that happened in our neighboring city of Grand Rapids that affects our city too. Byron Martinez, a beloved Grand Rapids community member and friend, was brutally detained by ICE in collaboration with ATF and GRPD on February 3rd. Not only was he racially profiled, but he was denied the chance to present his valid paperwork and violently forced from his car while he pleaded to show his asylum documents. He was thrown into the snow. He couldn't breathe because an agent was pushing his face in the snow while he pleaded not to be treated so violently. This highlights how racial profiling leads to persecution and an escalation of violence, especially when local agencies such as the Grand Rapids Police Department are involved. This is in direct contrast to their stated commitment, as JRPD has said that they would not collaborate with ICE. Many in the community are in disbelief that a gentle, humble, and mild-mannered young man would be treated so horribly for no reason and detained unlawfully simply for being brown, indigenous, Latino, who didn't speak much English. The perfect victim for such a violent and brazen abduction, especially as we witness the escalation, with billions being poured into ICE. Communities are on edge, and Grand Rapids is a perfect example of a government that is failing to protect its most vulnerable people. City leadership has failed to listen to the community and be brave and protect its people by passing sanctuary policies in support of Cosecha. Their statement is as follows: with the present administration's deportations and ICE violence, it is imperative that institutions across Michigan step up and take action in support of our undocumented immigrants who are an integral part of our community. Join Movimiento Cosecha and GR Rapid Response to ICE for action and meetings, urging the City of Grand Rapids and Kent County to pass our proposed sanctuary policies. Policies that prohibit local law enforcement from detaining individuals on civil immigrant warrants, that prevent GRPD and sheriff's departments from collaborating with ICE, policies that prohibit the sharing of personal data gathered by the city and county, including the information gathered by Flock Technology, policies that ban 287G agreements with ICE, that oppose the establishment of detention centers in city and county limits, that prevent entering in agreements with entities with current contract to ICE. Similarly, in Kalamazoo, we would like to discuss more in detail how policy 414 on immigrant violations needs to be updated to reflect the increase in ICE violence. I will reiterate, when agencies collaborate with ICE, community members are brutalized. A perfect example being in GRPD collaborating with ICE to brutalize Byron. In Kalamazoo, we have been demanding policies that prevent KDPS and Sheriff Department from collaborating with ICE, as well as prohibiting staging on city and government property, the removal of and divestment from flock technology, a public audit of data sharing agreements, and a reallocation of critical funds to impacted communities, the denouncement of and policies that ban 287G agreements with ICE. It has been highlighted before that denouncing this is denouncing the culture of hatred for immigrants that seeps into our communities. Para la comunidad latina, todos somos Byron, porque a ICE no le importa si los inmigrantes tienen papeles o no. A Byron lo violentaron sin darle la oportunidad de presentar sus documentos. Ya no importa si tenemos papeles, residencia o si somos ciudadanos. Todos somos Byron por ser morenos, negros, inmigrantes, que deseamos una oportunidad de progresar en un país lleno de ilusiones y oportunidades, pero con un problema de racismo que siempre ha pasado el límite. Solo estaremos seguros si nos unimos para demandar que respeten nuestros derechos y liberen a todos los que como Byron están detenidos simplemente por ser latinos. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please.
Yes, I'll go because no one else stood up. My name is Rachel Vinales. I do not live in the city of Kalamazoo. I'm a resident of the township of Kalamazoo, but I was raised in this community. I came back to work at the Kalamazoo County Defender, and I was educated here in the city of Kalamazoo in the Kalamazoo Public Schools. I'm here today because I decided about a month and a half ago to run for the 8th District Court judge position that will be vacated by Judge Santoni. And I am so grateful to have been here during the meeting where these proclamations were read and after we just heard that other public comment, because those are exactly the reasons why I want to be the next judge in this county, representing not only other people in Portage, in the township, in Schoolcraft, and Vicksburg, but many people that live here in the city of Kalamazoo. One thing that I think sets me apart and what makes me really want to make sure my perspective is on the bench is because of my background. I've worked exclusively as a public defender, defending the rights, the constitutional rights of citizens in this community every single day. And I think that that's a perspective that is missing in some ways from the bench. I've seen multiple times the kinds of bias, racism, prejudice that was spoken about by the other people at the podium earlier tonight. And I want to make sure that when people come into court, they feel that they are seen, they are treated fairly, they are heard, and they are treated with compassion. That's the way that I have worked my entire career. Those are principles that are deeply ingrained in me. They're not going away. But I would be that kind of judge, to treat the citizens of this community with the kind of care and compassion that I've led by every single day in my career. So just wanted to introduce myself. I'll be out in the community, hopefully meeting many more people in this body, many of the people behind me, and other people that aren't here tonight. But I look forward to speaking more with residents of the city of Kalamazoo about the kind of court that I envision and the kind of justice that I hope to bring to our community, hopefully following my election in November. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please.
Good evening again. My name is Wendy Fields, and I stand before you as the president of the Kalamazoo branch of the NAACP with just a few announcements, community announcements. So one of them is NAACP, we will be hosting our 6th annual Black History Infant Mortality Awareness Baby Shower Drive. The items that we collect for this drive, we donate to Cradle Kalamazoo because they host 4 community baby showers every year, and the items that we collect we donate back to them for those community baby showers. One of the reasons that we support the baby shower is because it's a shower of not just giving things away, but they also provide education, maternal infant health, infant growth and development, family planning, and the whole gamut. So it's one that NAACP can fully put its support behind. There are going to be 3 different locations. All this information is on our website. So we will be at the Unitarian Universalist Church. We will be at Urban Alliance, and our last stop for the day will be at the Douglas Community Center. And those things are on our website, but I'm also going to make sure you get it by emailing you that information. The other thing is NAACP is partnering with KVCC Center for New Media. Every year they have a black artist showing and art exhibit, and so that show is going to take place March 5th, but right now what they're looking for are black artists, and if you know of any black artists, doesn't matter how young, doesn't matter how old, please send them that way, and the cutoff deadline is the 27th of this month. Get that. NAACP, we will be hosting a blood drive. We do these about every 2 months. And so our next one is going to be March 5th. And so we strongly encourage any and everybody to come, but particularly African Americans, because there is a strong shortage of black donors. And given the fact that we disproportionately have sickle cell disease, our blood is most compatible with those that look like us. So, but we want everybody's blood because there's a national shortage. And lastly, I just want to give a plug for our membership. NAACP, we are going up in cost for our lifetime membership. So right now, for a lifetime membership is $750. March 1st, it will be $1,000. You have the opportunity paying for that membership over a 10-year period, because we believe in the layaway plan. And so if you make your first payment before March 1st, we will honor the $750 for the 10 years. So thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, everybody, it's me again. You know, flooding's right around the corner. Probably this week. Your storm drains don't work. They flood out the neighborhood. It's frozen ground. We're gonna flood. What you gonna do? Just put road closed signs out and say, okay, deal with it? Because that's normally what we get. And it's not just me, it's a whole neighborhood. You're talking Crosstown, Vine, Lake, Walter, Park, Burdick. It also goes all the way down Crosstown to Portage Road, where there is no water. But it comes up through the storm drains and it floods the streets out. So you lose your furnace in the winter, you can't wait for it to dry out. You have to replace it because you don't have time to wait. So it's time. Stop taking away green spaces in my neighborhood. Stop building in my neighborhood until you fix this problem. You built KVCC Growing Field. Before you built that, you never fixed the sewer system. You never fixed the storm system. You never fixed anything. You just built on top of a floodplain, which meant you built the building up higher. And where does the water go? But to the lowest point, which is your residents who live in Kalamazoo. I've been fighting this for 8 years, guys. Come on. How many more years must I come up here? How many more Mondays must I come and ask you over and over and over again? Fix your storm drains. Your storm drains are not working. They are flooding the streets out. It's not Axle Creek. It's not the ponds. It's your storm drains. Evidently, they're not working because every other neighborhood doesn't have flooded streets. They can get out of their homes. They can get in their homes. Police station can't get out when we flood. Bronson Hospital gets trapped, but they raised the payment up. So now the water's not so bad probably over there. But everybody floods. It's a poor neighborhood. It's not easy to keep fixing the same problem over and over again because the city of Kalamazoo won't do their job and clean the storm drains out. Clean them, fix them, repipe them, put screens in them, something. But you have done nothing in 8 years. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please.
Good evening. My name is Sarah Kennedy, and I am a resident of the city of Kalamazoo. I was raised in the city, and my husband and I are now raising our 5 children here. My children attend St. Augustine Cathedral School, which is located at 600 West Michigan Avenue in downtown. The school has been in operation at this location for over 100 years. I am here on behalf of St. Augustine Cathedral School. I am the president of the school's local advisory council. We advise the principal on all matters pertaining to the school. 250 students attend St. Augustine Cathedral School. It is a preschool through 8th grade school. Our youngest children are 3 years old. We draw students from all corners of the city. We consider ourselves a downtown community partner. We are a private school that serves a public good. We are the only grade school in the downtown core. Our school is keenly aware of its location. We aim to serve our community with love and compassion. Our students volunteer at St. Vincent de Paul, serving the less fortunate. They collect winter coats every year for the Salvation Army. They assist at Catholic charities, and they collect food every month for local food pantries. Additionally, our students take advantage of our downtown location with walking field trips to places like Bronson Park, the Kalamazoo Valley Museum, and Chenery Auditorium. Also, our school is located in a residential neighborhood. After school hours, our school playground is open to that neighborhood. I come here with a concern. In October, we saw a sharp uptick in trespassing on our school campus. Trespassers aggressively approached parents in the drop-off line in the morning, as well as walked through the playground during recess. We have a closed campus during school hours for the sake of student safety and supervision. It is the responsibility of the school to know who is on the campus at all times in order to prevent unauthorized contact with the school children. Unauthorized adults, regardless of intent, break that safety model. We contacted Kalamazoo Department of Public Safety for assistance in keeping our campus secure. KDPS was phenomenal. They conducted directed patrols during drop-off and pickup, as well as recess. They responded immediately if a trespasser was present. They gave us advice on best practices to keep our campus secure. In addition, KDPS has given us valuable safety training to our 3 Catholic schools in the city. We give KDPS our heartfelt thanks. My ask of the City Commission: there is much development going on downtown around our campus, including the arena and road redesign. These projects greatly affect our campus and its security. St. Augustine Cathedral School requests the City Commission to remember our school in the midst of issues that affect our downtown campus. A closed campus is paramount to the safety of the children who attend the school. We are asking for help in maintaining a safe and predictable school environment for the students. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please.
Hello again. I'm still Margaret Wilson, and I'm still a resident of Kalamazoo. I am a parent of 3 Kalamazoo Public School students, and I'm a resident of the Vine neighborhood. I want to both thank you and acknowledge the effort and work that went into moving forward the Safe Routes to School federally funded program for Maple Street Middle School and Winchell Elementary School that was started in 2019. When that process was conducted, the most concerning location identified in that process was the crossing from the Vine neighborhood to Maple Street, crossing Howard at the bottom of Merrill. I have enthusiastically, probably slightly annoyingly, aggressively engaged with the process for that program the entire time, even though when it started I didn't have any kids at Maple Street yet. Now my oldest has moved all the way through and is at Loy Norix, and my two youngest are both students at Maple Street. The original plan in the Safe Routes to School process was to put the crossing where it is now and add some extra infrastructure to alert drivers to pedestrians who are crossing. In the interim, the city engineers have redesigned that crossing and are now moving it from that known intersection to a mid-block crossing up the hill, closer to the crest of the hill, shortening the line of sight for drivers to see that the students are there, and putting it at an unexpected location where everyone knows there's a corner there, there's an intersection there, even though it's not controlled by a traffic light. It also moves the sidewalk over to the side of the road that is owned by private homeowners, and my neighborhood, I'm sad to say, has a terrible, terrible, terrible record of clearing sidewalks. And I know for a fact that the owners who are on that side don't clear the sidewalks that are there already now. I'm not trying to shame anybody, it's just a cultural thing. The side of the road that they walk up now to go up Howard is exclusively under the control of the school, so it's really well maintained. So that's one of my concerns with that, moving it up there. While you drive by Maple, you can see that there are doors to go in from Howard, but the kids don't go in or out those doors, they go through the doors on the other side. And their current habit is to walk through the playing field most of the time in the summer, a little less in the winter because the snow's so deep. So now the kids are gonna have to change their traffic pattern to not use that intersection when it moves. I think there are some things that the city can do that will mitigate some of those, and there are some things that change is gonna happen and it's not gonna be easy to fix. One of the things that I don't think the city can address is that after school activities and regular usage by neighborhood residents will not reflect the movement of that away from the intersection. So lots of dog walkers, lots of people with little kids, lots of people going sledding cross there to get to the field. When the sporting events are over, the kids who are playing football, if they live in the neighborhood, they're leaving at Merrill. So even if we expanded the new fabulous city program to clean sidewalks to clean that sidewalk, you're still gonna have a problem with the neighborhood no longer being able to access the field and kids leaving sporting events not being able to cross. So I just wanna thank you for moving it from a consent item to an agenda item to allow for a little bit more discussion, and I'm really hopeful that going forward that there'll be more chances for engagement and problem solving with the neighborhood. So thank you for that.
Thank you. Next, please.
Hello, my name is Katie Platty, and I'm a resident of the city of Kalamazoo. I also live in Vine, and I'm here to voice my concern about the same issue. My son started middle school this year. He has to cross that crosswalk in the morning to go to school, either on his bike or walking. The last 4 months, it's been completely dark at that time of day when school starts. And the lights flash, but it's not enough to stop the traffic. And I've seen so many cars run through there. One car will stop, the other car will zoom around them, which makes it even more dangerous for kids. And even during the daytime, I've come to pick him up at that same intersection, and I've heard honking and thought that someone was going to get hit, and it was like a fire truck honking at cars to try to make them stop for the children. So while I'm really happy that you guys are considering this and trying to make it more safe, I do think a stoplight would be the most appropriate thing there. In Portage, for their bike paths, they have stoplights that you can push and it will turn red. Well, like the ones downtown, except for, you know, they don't work all the time. Something like that would be good. And I walk across that intersection myself all the time to get to Kleinstuck and walk, and I'm scared to walk across it. And I'm an adult that's big and walking in the daytime. So thank you.
Thank you. Next, please.
Good evening. Good evening. My name is Steve Walsh, and I'm a resident of the Vine neighborhood, and I wanted to start by congratulating and acknowledging the NAACP's Founders Day and Black History Month's 100th anniversary as well. I'm here to comment on the same topic that the previous two speakers just did. They were very eloquent. They stated things very clearly. This is a very dangerous intersection that we've been trying for, as Maggie said, since 2017, I believe, to try to work on ways to get children safely across this intersection. We're talking about preteens trying to navigate 4 lanes of traffic with cars going 40+ miles an hour. They're froggering across here, wearing backpacks in the gloaming, as Katie said, in the dusk. It's just been the wheel of fortune so far that something tragic hasn't happened. I've seen cars flipped over. I have taken kids there. I'm a pedestrian there. I walk my dog over there, and I drive down that stretch as well. And it's a very dangerous area to ask kids to try to navigate. They just simply don't have that type of experience. So I appreciate you moving this to from the consent agenda to the action agenda, I guess. I'm sorry, I'm drawing blank on it. But one thing that I wanted to also introduce here is that for children in the Vine neighborhood, with the failure of El Sol to continue to exist within the neighborhood, children who want to go to the Eat Up and Meet Up, they have to try to cross the street now and go to Maple. And I have kids in my neighborhood, in my area, who come to our house for snacks and do small jobs. And we said, you can go across the street to Maple and get food there. And they've told us that their parents said that they're not allowed to cross Maple Street. So this has a number of different ripple effects. I appreciate you taking a look at this, and I'm going to ask that you take a look at this with some urgency as well before something bad happens. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Chris Glasser from the East Side. Last meeting, myself and several other residents voiced their concerns about the flock cameras that are scattered across the city. And Chief Boyson came up, explained how the cameras work, how KDPS uses them, and insisted that they're completely secure. Only the city can access the data. Nothing to worry about. He even talked to me after the meeting, saying, oh, they have certain security standards that they need to meet. It's totally secure. Don't worry. Literally the next day, there was a news story about how a city turned off their flock cameras after they discovered that their data had been accessed by literally hundreds of state and federal agencies. And this isn't a one-time situation. It's literally happening across the country, where they are being accessed unauthorized. The cities aren't aware of it, and they find out after the fact. So just because Flock tells you that it's secure and that only you have access to it, they're not a trustworthy organization. They're working with a not so trustworthy federal administration. And we can't just take their word for it. We know that this data is being accessed by other organizations. Now, if the data was truly just within the city of Kalamazoo's hands, I wouldn't be super worried. I'm not worried about KDPS having the time or resources to mass surveil all of our citizens. However, they are making the data accessible to corporations and agencies that do. So unless you do something, unless you change it, I think we need to turn off these flock cameras. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please.
Hi, my name is Courtney Smith-Worsima. I'm a former administrator for Kalamazoo Public Schools, and I am a current resident of the Winchell neighborhood. I'm here to comment on the addition of a sidewalk on the south side of Winchell. I know this is going to be up for discussion during the regular agenda. I have 2 children who walk to school and are able to make a safe route around, but they have to go all the way around the block on Broadway to get to the crosswalk. I make them do that, of course, but my concern, just from working in the public school system, is for all of the families who are dropping off on my street, who don't have the time or the energy or the resources to make that loop all the way around to get to the crosswalk. And it's creating a very unsafe situation as everyone kind of froggers across Winchell there to get to the school, because there is no sidewalk on the south side. There's no good way to go down without walking in the street to get to the safe 4-way stop where they can cross. In addition to that, we just added a peep wing to the school, so we're currently at 500 students. That we're probably going to get up to 550, maybe close to 600 this next fall. You got to think we've got one little strip and a tiny circular drive as far as like drop off and pick off. It's a very, very congested area. And the addition of that sidewalk would offer an entire other side of the street where parents could safely drop their kids off, get them to the crosswalks, and across over to the school. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Shona Espinoza. I mean, I guess if we're all coming up here to complain about sidewalks, can we talk about getting busing and cleaning the sidewalks off for those that go to Hillside, that walk from Interfaith? That's dangerous. That should have been in that Safe First program. Hillside, even Millwood Middle School, they're walking down what's called Sheridan. There's no sidewalks, it's dark, cars drive in and out of there. So if we're talking about sidewalks in schools, maybe it should be all schools across the country, the county, because our friends from Interfaith, they don't get a bus. They're walking across 3 main streets in the dark. As people would say, the north side is dangerous. So why are we letting students walk that far? Sidewalks aren't shoveled always. There's some, there ain't even no sidewalks. So if we're talking about sidewalks and safety of students, make it across the board, not just certain schools, to be fair, to be equitable. Our black and brown students deserve the same thing. Thank you for the meeting, Mayor Alonzo, Slaby. Meeting was a success. Hopefully it continues. That's all I have to say. It's been a long day. Bye.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the chamber who wants to take advantage of this opportunity for public comment? Seeing no one else, the public comment period is closed. I do want to thank everybody that took the time and made the effort to come here and provide a comment for this meeting. Next is the consent agenda. Manager Hankins.
Thank you, Mayor. The following items are submitted for approval. G1, approval of a sole source purchase with my motion for the rehabilitation of 2 fault gear drives for the primary clarifiers at the water reclamation plant in the amount of $124,914.09. Item 2, approval of a contract with Dew Point for Rapid7 vulnerability management, Rapid7 Insight IDR cybersecurity software services through the MyDeal Cooperative Purchasing Program in the amount of $147,322. 3, approval of a purchase of 3 Ford Utility Explorers from Gorno Ford through the MyDeal Cooperative Purchase Program in the amount of $149,994. 4, approval of a 1-year contract extension with Kronos to continue with Human Resources Information System in the amount of $169,919.65. 5, approval of a contract extension with Santiago Services for mowing and trimming of parks and green spaces in the amount of $199,904. 6, approval of a contract with A1 Asphalt for the 2026 water main break patch repair project in the amount of $217,401. 7, approval of the purchase of 4 Chevrolet Tahoes from Berger Chevrolet through the MyDeal Cooperative Purchasing Program in the amount of $221,568. 8, approval of the purchase of audiovisual equipment, integration services, and sound masking for the 150 East Crosstown Facility Renovation Project from Smart Homes and Smart Offices, Inc. through the MyDeal Cooperative Purchasing Program in the amount of $371,094.78. 9, approval of the lease replacement of 26 vehicles for public safety from Enterprise Fleet Management in the amount of $836,119.80 over 60 months. 10, approval of a contract with SWT Excavating, Inc. for new water service installations in the amount of $894,519.90. 12, adoption of a resolution approving an ACT 381 Brownfield Plan for Peregrine Peninsula located at 111 Portage Street. 13, acceptance of funds from the state of Michigan under Public Act 120 of 2024 for the purchase and upfitting of a patrol vehicle in the amount of $63,672.19. 14, acceptance of a risk avoidance program grant and a certification and accreditation grant from the Michigan Municipal Risk Management Association in the amount of $193,775. 15, approval and acceptance of public utility easement with CD Arena LLC for water main and storm sewer installed as part of the Kalamazoo Event Center project. 16, approval and acceptance of a snow melt system easement with CD Arena LLC for private snow melt installed as per the Kalamazoo Event Center project. 17, approval and acceptance of an air rights easement with CD Arena LLC for building overhang element installed as part of the Kalamazoo Event Center project. And 18, approval of the minutes from the City Commission meetings on December 8th and December 15th, 2025, and January 5th, January 26th, and February 2nd, 2026.
Thank you very much, Manager Hankins. I appreciate that. Commissioners, the requested action is a motion to approve items 1 through 10 and 12 through 18 and authorize the city manager to sign all related documents on behalf of the city. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Motion made by Commissioner Slaby.
Support.
Supported by Commissioner Hess. Clerk Borling, please call the roll.
Commissioner Pradel?
Yes.
Commissioner Slaby?
Yes.
Commissioner Wilson?
Yes, abstaining from agenda items 15 through 17 due to an employer conflict.
Vice Mayor Duncan?
Yes.
Mayor Anderson?
Yes.
Commissioner Hess?
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioners. Items on the consent agenda are approved. We're now on to H, the regular agenda. City Manager Hankins.
Thank you, Mayor. H1, approval of a one-year contract extension with the Michigan Municipal Risk Management Authority through IBEX Insurance Agency for property and casualty insurance annual premium in the amount not to exceed $1,130,954 and a deposit to the member retention fund of $100,000 and approval of a budget amendment for the contract extension in the amount of $174,589.
Thank you, Manager Hankins. Is there a staff report on this item?
There is not, but management services staff are available if questions are raised.
Questions, Commissioners? All right, I think we're all set on that. Okay. Commissioners, is there anyone, I'm sorry, before we get to the motion time, is there anyone in the audience who'd like to comment on this item? That's item H1. If so, please come to the podium, give us your name and whether you live in the city. Seeing no one, the recommended action, Commissioners, is a motion to approve. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Motion made by Commissioner Slaby.
Support.
Supported by Commissioner Wilson. Discussion, Commissioners? Seeing none, Clerk Borling, please call the roll.
Commissioner Slaby?
Yes.
Commissioner Wilson?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Duncan?
Yes.
Mayor Anderson?
Yes.
Commissioner Hess?
Yes.
Commissioner Pradel?
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioners. The motion passes. Next on the agenda is item H2. City Manager Hankins.
Thank you, Mayor. Approval of a sole source purchase with Ferguson Waterworks to provide Neptune water meters in the amount of $2 million.
Thank you, Manager Hankins. Is there a staff report on this item?
No, there's not, but there are staff available if there are questions.
Staff is available. Questions, Commissioners? All right, just as a reminder, this is something that has been talked about before, so this is not the first time we're seeing this. No questions at this time, is that correct? All right, seeing no questions, is there anyone in the audience like to comment on this item? That's item H2. If so, please come to the podium. Seeing no one, Commissioners, the recommended action is a motion to approve. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Support. Motion made by Commissioner Slaby, supported by Vice Mayor Duncan. Discussion, Commissioners? Seeing none, Clerk Borling, please call the roll.
Commissioner Wilson?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Duncan?
Yes.
Mayor Anderson?
Yes.
Commissioner Hess?
Yes.
Commissioner Pradel?
Yes.
Commissioner Slaby?
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioners. The motion passes. We now have a third item on our regular agenda, H, and that was formerly on the consent agenda. It was G11. Now it is our third item under regular agenda H. Manager Hankins.
Thank you, Mayor. Approval of a resolution approving MDOT contract number 25-5691 for Winchell Avenue and Howard Street infrastructure improvements through the Safe Routes to School grant in the amount of $47,361.
Thank you very much, Manager Hankins. And I know there were some comments related to this particular item, which is why we moved it to regular agenda. Is there somebody here who could comment in particular on this item?
Yes, sir. We have staff here. Director Baker is available to comment on whatever questions the commission may have.
Welcome, Director Baker. I don't know if you want to start with questions or if there's a few comments you'd like to make first. Director Baker, how do you want to do this?
I can give a brief overview, Your Honor, if you'd like to have that.
Sure, that'd be helpful.
Okay. I'll jump right into it. This project is Safe Routes to School project launched in 2019. That included a fair amount of work. There's a website that we have on our city website that's dedicated to that. There's a pretty lengthy report that goes into a lot of the details. This has been one of those funding challenges for us in that we're seeking grants. These grants come federally to us through MDOT. The project was then designed because we got a grant for design dollars in 2023, and then all this work goes back to MDOT and also gets put into our transportation improvement plan here locally with our Metropolitan Planning Agency, which is for us is CATS, Kalamazoo Area Transportation Study. So there has been some time between different levels of engagement with the community and when we've done design for that project and come back out. This project focuses on 2 routes to school. It does include some crossings, and it does include some significant sidewalk improvements. Those schools are Winchell Elementary with that sidewalk on Winchell Avenue from Rambling Road to Oakland Drive. We also have the Maple Street Magnet School, and we have sidewalk improvements on Howard Street and from Stearns to Merrill Street. So 2 different project areas all together within the same project. So this project, the phase we're at right now, the design was complete in 2023. The project was turned over to MDOT. MDOT has bid out this project in a bid letting. They have a contractor, and the recommended action in front of the City Commission tonight is a contract with MDOT to construct these improvements. If that is approved tonight, construction would start in the fall of this year and would go through spring of 2027. So that would be able for folks for the school year at the end of the school year in 2027, and then when students return in the fall of 2027. Certainly, we heard some comments about that crossing at Merrill, how that's configured. I can share with you that that intersection does present some challenges. When that design was really kind of went into the details of it in 2023. The engineering team had made the decision due to a number of contributing factors to move that crossing west away from the intersection with Merrill. Some of that is due to a refugee island, pedestrian refugee island, that's going to go in the middle of Howard Street. That placement of that refugee island would conflict with turning movements into Merrill Street. So this is a little bit of a give and take. Certainly there's risk. You heard about the risk. Certainly we're trying to address safety issues, and we're implementing countermeasures. Some of these countermeasures that we propose have functional uses that have their own constraints. And so we wanted to add that pedestrian refuge island, and to do so, we needed to move away from that intersection at Merrill Street. There's also some guidance in terms of the lights that we're going to use, the signals, the flashing signals to warn the motorists as they're approaching, and following the guidance on those placements, the engineers liked this proposed location better. I can also share with you that this work is going to happen in coordination with another project on Howard Street, which was a 4-lane to 3-lane conversion. So Howard Street will be configured in the future if funded, and all these projects go together. That would have a directional through lanes, a center turn lane, and bike lanes, and that would all tie in well with that proposed pedestrian refuge island, which would be located west of Merrill. So I'll stop there. I know there's not a lot of visual aids here that we've talked through, so I'll pause and open the floor for, happy to receive commissioner questions.
Thank you, Director Baker. Vice Mayor Duncan.
So what's our ability? So I hear what our residents are saying about the safety issue. If we were to vote on this tonight, what is our ability to go and edit what that intersection might look like? Because, obviously the parents from the neighborhood are telling us that it's not going to be safe in its current format. So do we have the ability to alter the plan?
So just to speak directly to the question, the action that we're proposing tonight, we're beyond design. So we're either recommending or, let me pause. The staff recommendation is to move forward with the contract. The design was done in 2023. If the commission is not prepared to do that, we would need to take that back. I don't fully understand what our options are right now. Obviously, if we don't approve the contract, we can't construct the improvements. If we had some time to go back to MDOT to see if there's room to make changes, I don't know if that those changes would be recommended. I think that we're getting into some challenges of kind of designing from the dais. Staff does not usually recommend that. But if the commission is not prepared to go forward, let us take something back and see what our options are before we make that ultimate decision.
Thank you, Director. Yeah, Commissioner Slaby.
Hi, Director Baker. Thank you for being here tonight to answer our questions. You mentioned the timeline. Design phase was in 2023. And so this final shift to moving the pedestrian refuge further from from the existing location where people are currently crossing, how is that then shared out, the final design, shared out to the community for either final comment to adjust as needed, or just as a, hey, this is what we landed with? Could you talk a little bit about that engagement timeline?
Sure, I'm going to ask for some assistance on that. I can't recall exactly what that looked like back to the community, but I know that there were interactions that we had. So if possible, I'd like Planner Anderson to join to help talk through some of those items. Thank you.
Sure, thanks for the question. There were a couple conversations that were had when it was determined that the safest location was west of the intersection at Merrill. The engineers and planning staff had conversations with neighbors and with the school to make sure that the placement was not impacting the turning movements in and out of that driveway. There were a number of conversations that were had, particularly with the neighbors on Howard Street, regarding placement of the crossing, impact to trees, tree planting, and a number of other new design elements related to that. The plans, we had hoped originally, when this design was being done in '23, the plan was to be constructed in '24. And it was going to be constructed in conjunction with the Howard Street conversion from 4 lanes to 3 lanes as all one project. The Howard project got delayed because of budget reasons, and then the Safe Routes to School at the state level got delayed, which is why you're just now seeing it rather than not in '23. That was delayed at the states because of concerns about tree removal related to potential historic properties. I'm sorry, I'm giving you a little more information than what you asked for. I kind of wanted to detail why the delay had happened since '23. So a number of conversations did happen in '23, but it's been a while since then. Certainly.
Yeah, that was gonna be my second question to clarify the delay. I knew it had to do with SHPO, so you answered that. Director Baker, going back to you, with the timing, so let's say we decided to postpone just for maybe staff to come back with maybe more information, maybe some visual aids, or just you mentioned confirming some options. What would postponing this to the next meeting do to any deadlines related to receiving funding or just for MDOT to get it on their schedule for the fall?
Sure, I think that's totally an option. If we're able to, say, pause, go back, engage with the community, get some visual aids, talk through the justification, build some better awareness and community support for the project, why the lane configuration, pedestrian refuge island, the pedestrian intersection, how those all move and how they work together. And I think if we're given some further opportunity to engage with the public to kind of demonstrate that Rubik's Cube of you might want this, all these colors to be green, but then all those colors over there turn a different color. So it's bringing that all together, right? So bringing that back, I think we've got some time to do that. The good news is that construction isn't planned to start until the fall. So I think there's definitely some room there. I don't know exactly what our drop dead date is with MDOT, but.
I don't have the drop dead date, but I do know that pending the action tonight, a pre-construction meeting was being scheduled for March. The reason why the work can't start this spring is you would expect if you see a bid now, you would expect it to see occurring sooner than the fall is there is a window in the state of Michigan from when you can remove trees to make sure that you're not endangering species who inhabit those trees. And that deadline, you can't cut starting in March. So from March to early fall, we can't do the prep work in order to do the construction work. So there is a pre-construction meeting that's being scheduled right now. So we would be in active conversation with MDOT and can find out if there is a drop dead date. The challenge with this funding, it was delayed first for COVID, then it was delayed because of SHPO issues. Now that it's been let to us, I don't know from NDOT's perspective what the timeline is for spending it. So we can get those answers to you, and if that's what is of interest.
And then, sorry I'm going back and forth. Going back to earlier conversations while engaging the community with the final plan, I just want to clarify for the community because you say conversations. So are we talking about, like small group conversations, one-on-one outreach to the school and immediate neighbors, or was there like a broader mailer or something to reach out to the full school community that would be impacted by this?
It was more one-on-one outreach. It was having conversation with both schools, right, because there are two involved here, as well as working to go back out to folks that had participated in previous processes. It was not meetings, it was not mailers.
Okay, so we didn't have like a broader town hall or anything like that?
To announce the plans, no.
Yeah, okay. And last question, was I'm just thinking about it ahead of time, leading, if we were to postpone it and this would come back to us, are these considered, this seems like a package, Winchell and the Howard Crossing. Is there any option, for whatever reason, I'm just trying to understand how it's set up, for us to move forward with the Winchell one and not the Howard one, or would that just completely disregard the entire grant?
My understanding is that they're together.
Okay.
I believe that construction, I mean, as we said before, we thought we could start Howard, potentially the crossing this year, and Winchell might go into the next year with the tree work starting this fall. And so I think there's some possibility of spanning some short amount of time, but my understanding is that those are a package deal. It's funds together. The other element with Safe Routes to School is so you get a certain amount of money from the state, the Michigan Fitness Foundation, to do physical projects. In this case, the sidewalk, crosswalks, and the crossing of Howard. But also each school gets funds to do safety projects on their campus. And I don't know the timing of that release, if it's with the construction work, if it's separate, but those funds are also coming down the pike, so those schools can do safety projects, which they came up with a list of things that they wanted to do. Of course, that was back in 2019, but they had a list of improvements that they wanted to do on campus.
Thank you. Commissioner Hess.
Sure. I hear there are two separate projects. The Howard work, going to 2 lanes, turn lane, bike lanes, and then this crosswalk work, and they're not concurrent, right?
Do you want to talk to them that one?
They are separate projects. If funding comes through in the next TIP, they may be under construction at the same time in kind of a lagging overlap.
Okay, thank you. And I do wonder if traffic were slowed in that regard for that crosswalk, it would really be helpful. That is one of the most dangerous places for people to cross in Kalamazoo. People, I think, 30 miles an hour, and people, they go 60 down that hill. And until we change people's driving habits, we're going to have to do a whole lot more work on the streets, I think. So, but I think if we were able to do the street and the crosswalk all at once, we would eliminate a little bit of confusion for the crosswalk.
Thank you, Commissioner Hess. Commissioner Pradel?
Yeah, thank you for allowing us to put this on the regular agenda just so we could talk a little bit about it more, and then it would be helpful to kind of hear any clarifying comments from the residents. I really want to thank everybody for their patience in this as well. I've had some dialogue with City Engineer Dennis Randolph at a number of the Design It meetings, just talking about this in particular. And each time that I've had the conversations with him, it seems like the common thread is like he's profusely trying to apologize because of all these unforeseen delays. And I will say, I don't expect that every resident's going to be at every meeting, but I can say with confidence in the 6+ years that I've been here that at least once or twice per year, since people have lifted this forward in my 6.5 years, when we've had these kind of conversations, this crossing has come up as part of the conversation. So we have not let this dwindle, and I know city staff is likewise tried to balance that with all the delay challenges that you've had. So I wanted to thank you for your patience, and thank you for continuing to push us for this, but also thank city staff for continuing to keep this moving forward as well. The reason I'm kind of curious to hear kind of some follow-up thoughts is based on your presentation, Director Baker. One of the things you mentioned kind of 3 things tonight that are conflicting factors that bring challenges to this. One of them is the turn lane on DeMero. And there's a couple examples that are recent to this. One of them is, I think it's Northampton on West Main, where you really do have to be super thoughtful about that, because if you get a decent number of people who are looking to turn, it can actually unintentionally create a safety hazard for people who are trying to cross or people who are in the periphery of the roadway if people all of a sudden slam on their brakes at the bottom of the hill because there's not enough room for people to turn. So that is a thoughtful consideration. I can't remember the term for it, but the refuge island type thing where it's the painted center that you have to think about with that turn lane. A really good example that I've seen where I feel so much more comfortable crossing that I used to hate crossing is right here at Bronson Park, where you're, it's right by I know it as the Comerica building, but on Academy. I don't know why, but I just naturally feel safer crossing that as a pedestrian now than I did before that was there. So I do think that that's a really effective tool as a mechanism for just pedestrians having that peace of mind. And then that kind of visual cue to drivers that this is somehow different than the roadway. And then the other part that you brought up tonight as well is that part of the calming is reduction from 4 lanes to 3 lanes. And that's huge, right? I mean, and then when you add the bicycle lanes to the side, that's one more area. And like for me, when I'm crossing on like West Michigan Avenue is a good example, having those cycle lanes really do give you more ability to kind of jet out into the road a little bit, and then you have that refuge in the center if you need to. So there's good examples that we're starting to see where those are really effective tools if they're used correctly. So I'm curious to get some thoughts as we're kind of dissecting that from residents about their thoughts about those things. I know one thing that is kind of unique as well is that it's one of those projects where certain times of day can make it even more unsafe. And so my question is like in terms of lighting for the early mornings when it's dark, what things do you think are elements to this design that could maybe help with that lighting component to it? You know, whether it be flashing beacons or thoughts about just lighting overhead or pointed on that so that people are more visible. Is there anything that you can think of that would kind of stand out for that?
Certainly. I'll just say something that's maybe unique, but it's certainly something staff are aware of with a lot of safety improvements or a lot of the overall work that we do is that we might have one goal for improvement, but it might come at several projects or it might come from several different sources. So this is another great example of it. We've got the Safe Routes to School project, which we have in front of you tonight. That's going to cover specific elements of the work. We've got the future project for Howard Street 4-lane to 3-lane conversion. And then I also want to bring you back to your capital improvement plans, both line items in your major street plan and line items in your local street plan, where we have roadway lighting improvements, which we're talking about the street lights that are on the telephone poles that come on at night. And so we really have a plan in focus to do more streets. And so as we are doing projects, we're also looking to make lighting improvements. We're also making street light improvements to signalize intersections. So, and I'm going back to your 5 o'clock meeting with some comments there, but we have improvements going on at traffic signals to where when you push the crosswalk button and you get the crosswalk, there's LED lights on that mast arm that turn on and light your way as you cross to go across. So those are all the work that we're doing. So hearing the comments about the vision safety at night, there's certainly some room and opportunity to add conventional street lights to these locations and highlight the areas where there's bus stops, where there's pedestrian movements, that sort of thing.
I would love to see any of those opportunities like that. You know, it's kind of a dark crossing there as well, just because there's a lot of I guess wooded areas as well, but like another good example is like I think it's Kilgore and Lover's Lane. I think about that every single time at that intersection. I love that overhead light because it's so dark on that intersection, but it's a really, really effective tool to see, before you're going to turn or approach the intersection. So yeah, I think that would be really great to see anything like that to prioritize that area. And then the other thing too, when I was at Western, Dieter Hennecke, who was president at one point in time, was kind of well known for kind of a premise that he took about like where to place sidewalks. And he had this thought that we oftentimes just place things based on where we think things should go or make the most sense. But what he would actually do is he would go up in the middle of winter and he would look to see where students actually were walking based on the footpath through the snow. And I always thought that was very practical, because he's really thinking not necessarily about what we think, but what people actually do. And I guess one of the first kind of visceral reactions my thought is about moving the crosswalk up from the intersection. Is that just kind of on human nature? Do you get the sense, or do you think there would be a propensity for people just to still continue to walk across to where the intersection is, versus even if it's not that far away, to go where there's a marked crossing? Does that make sense?
Sure, and there's still going to be an intersection with Merrill there, and to my knowledge, that there's still a legal crosswalk, so that will be maintained. But all the improvements and all the work are going in to build a safer crosswalk to the west of that location. And our hope is that folks will see that as a open pathway that's well lit, brand new sidewalk. We've had some conversations with staff about the success of our sidewalk snow removal pilot, and although we're not everywhere we want to be, we want to go further with that program, but we're gaining a lot of momentum there, and we're seeing a lot of positive results. So this is an area next to school. There are other areas next to school. We're doing about 35 miles right now. We'd like to do about 70 miles. So there's certainly opportunity for growth, and there's opportunity for improvement there as well. But again, I want to kind of look at all these holistically. This project that we have in front of you, the future project for Howard Street 4-lane to 3-lane conversion, our line items in CIP project for lighting, and then a project we're not necessarily talking about tonight, but we're referencing is that sidewalk snow removal project. So bringing these kind of all together in that community approach to trying to make things safer. And then again, speaking towards the public and asking our neighbors, ourselves, our families, please slow down, please obey the speed limits, and we can all as a community come together to do our part to try to make this a safer intersection.
And then just kind of a last question. For a project like this, you let's say proceed as planned tonight or next meeting, whenever, with the planned design work, and all the work is executed, is there after action evaluation that occurs to look at or consider, hey, are there things that we're looking at that maybe not worked out as well as we thought, or that we might want to adjust a little bit? And how can the public, I guess, provide that input if they get to that point where, like, geez, we thought this would work. Hey, 4 out of the 5 things, they work great, but this one thing we might want to adjust or tweak a little bit. Like, how would that look, or how would?
That's a great, I think, comment and question, Commissioner Pradel, and I just want to reference back. We've done a lot of projects together, certainly in your tenure as City Commissioner. We did a 4-lane to 3-lane conversion on Cork Street not too long ago, and there is a lane that becomes a right turn only lane eastbound Cork as you're approaching Lover's Lane. And based on comments received, we actually put in some updated signals and signage to make that better. That's just one small example of a project that was implemented, and then we came back immediately afterwards and made some kind of small tweaks in the margin to help improve either operations or help improve safety, and we're completely open to that. That's something that we'd like to look at in every project. There's opportunities for like the your speed or speed feedback signs, and I hope everybody sees smiley faces as they drive around Kalamazoo. That's always reassuring. But those are things that we can move around, and we can move those further up the hill if needed. We can move things around a little bit. Certainly, there's going to be curb and gutter and sidewalk. It's concrete in the ground. It's more permanent than some of the other things, but there is always opportunity for improvement with every project, and I think that's something that we've looked at across all the projects, is making little tweaks here and there as we're implementing them, or as we come back in the spring and say, hey, over the winter we noticed this, or these are some of our observations. So we're always open to make operational and safety related adjustments to projects.
I really appreciate you answering all those. It's been really helpful to get further deep dive into this. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Pradel. Commissioner Wilson.
Commissioner Pradel kind of stole my question with his last question there. But I'll ask it again. I was just going to reiterate. Is there a formal process for evaluating our installed solutions just to make sure that efficacy is where it's at, where it's supposed to be? And then also, taking that opportunity to, if we got it right, announce those metrics. Yeah.
Sure. This is getting more into the details of our traffic engineering team, but we're always looking at safety analytics, including crash statistics, the details within crash statistics, including severity of crashes and type of crashes. We're looking at speed data, and we're looking at macro sets of large data. Usually it takes 1 to 5 years after a project to get a real good understanding of, are we trending in the right direction with the safety improvements? Are we trending in the right direction with speed? I can tell you for Kalamazoo at large, we are certainly right now trending in those right directions. So across the entire city, we have really done a great job to address injury accidents or severity of accidents over the last 5 years. We've also been working hard to address speed over the last 5 years, and those KPIs are moving in the right direction. So we are seeing success with our programs, and it's something that we're very, very plugged into, and analyzing. Our traffic engineering team is analyzing that on a constant basis. So yes, we're doing that, but it does take some time for us to go through that data. And so I think between the two approaches, the very human approach of, hey, this lane kind of ends and it's a right turn only lane, and I see a lot of cars that are backing up. Is there signs that we can put out there? That's an instantaneous operational improvement that's going to impact operations and safety. And those are some observations or anecdotal interactions that we can make right away. Some of the bigger picture of, hey, did this really reduce speed by 5 miles per hour or not? That's going to take us some time to be able to answer that. But I think both approaches are certainly needed on all projects here in the city. So thank you for that.
Absolutely, both qualitative and quantitative, assessment there. I'm glad to see that we're addressing, the traffic calming on Howard, because I see a lot of frowny faces around me, not from my vehicle, obviously, from around my vehicle, others, but, so thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions for the city team here? All right, thank you so much. I really appreciate all the information. This is the opportunity for anyone who's here in the chambers to comment specifically on this item. If you want to, please give us your name, whether you live in the city. You'll have 3 minutes for your comments. And just a reminder, this is on this item, H3. Thank you.
Rob McFadden. I live on Aberdeen in the Winchell neighborhood, just south of Winchell Ave, with my 2 children. They're in 2nd and 4th grade at Winchell. I'm here to support the infrastructure improvements. I want to start with a huge thank you for the 4-way stop that was installed at Winchell and Aberdeen. When we moved here 5 years ago, crossing the street with my kids was a regular source of anxiety. It was confusing and it didn't feel safe, and I could never imagine letting my kids cross it alone. And that one change has been a total life changer for my family's peace of mind. However, I know many families on the south side of Winchell aren't as lucky because there is no sidewalk and no safe path to get to a controlled crossing. They are stuck crossing wherever their side street happens to hit Winchell, and depending on the time of day and the sun's glare, it can be blinding and really unsafe even for the most cautious of parents. This project provides that missing safe path that allows every family on the south side to finally access the crossing guard and the 4-way stop safely. And while safety is worth every penny regardless of the cost, it's also a smart investment, unlocking those federal dollars with a small local investment. I think it's an easy decision for our kids' safety, but I also want to stand in solidarity with those who spoke before me for the concerns in Howard. And in my mind, the biggest thing, we don't want to lose those federal grant dollars. And it sounds like the Howard improvements to go to 3 lanes down to 4 would be, or from 4 would be a big improvement. So expediting that as a separate measure would be critical as well. So I urge you to approve the contract. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm Stephanie Watkins, President of the Oakland Drive Winchell Neighborhood Association, and I'm speaking tonight on behalf of our neighborhood in strong support of the contract with MDOT for the improvements on Winchell Avenue and Howard Street. This project directly advances the written goals and priorities that are contained in our Imagine Winchell neighborhood plan. Under our plan's Connected Neighborhood and Connected City chapters, our neighborhood specifically calls for improving non-motorized connectivity and safety, increasing traffic and intersection safety, implementing safe routes to school, and repairing and maintaining infrastructure. The proposed installation of a sidewalk on the south side of Winchell Avenue between Oakland and Rambling, along with associated safety enhancement, is precisely the type of infrastructure our neighborhood identifies as a high priority. As our neighborhood plan recognizes that Winchell Avenue, like many of the streets in our city, carries a significant traffic volumes, and that no non-motorized users must be protected. The plan calls for infrastructure that allows residents, especially children on their way to school or from school, to move safely and independently within the neighborhood. In addition to the proposed sidewalk, the improvements include curb ramps, pavement markings, rectangular flashing beacons. These improvements enhance visibility, shorten crossing distance, and create a safer environment for not only students but seniors, parents with strollers, and all residents who are choosing to walk in the neighborhood. Importantly, this project leverages federal funding through the Transportation Alternatives Program and Safe Routes to School program, bringing outside dollars into our community to implement goals that our neighborhood has already identified through a robust planning process. Enough time has already been spent waiting for this funding and for this project, as you've heard, more than 7 years, and we urge you to move forward rather than risk losing this funding. The ODWNA has long supported thoughtful investments and strengthening pedestrian safety while respecting the neighborhood character, and this project does exactly that. For these reasons, we support the Commission's approval of this item, and we thank you for your commitment to improving Kalamazoo neighborhood safety, connectivity, and walkability. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please.
Sorry, it's me again. I feel like I've taken over too much time. I just want to put a couple comments and a question. I don't want to sink Winchell. I want them to have that sidewalk. I think that there's a bunch of fabulous stuff that's already been done under the SRTS program. But I feel like the safety measures that city staff are putting forward as the mitigation for my concerns are maybes and ifs. If the sidewalk clearing program gets expanded, then the kids won't have to worry about an uncleared sidewalk, because what kids do when the sidewalk is not cleared is they walk in the street. If Howard goes from 4 lanes to 2 lanes with a center turning lane, then we can have an island and people will slow down. I would like to read to you the response I got to my query to Dennis Randolph, which is when I learned this afternoon about the plan to move it. As far as Howard Street is concerned, as with our other remaining 4-lane streets, we continue to look at possible conversion to a 3-lane operation. We are finding such conversions are much safer. However, we need to consider both existing and future traffic volumes to ensure that 3 lanes will meet traffic demand. So that doesn't sound like the 3-lane conversion is a guarantee. So I think that I would like to ask if city staff doesn't mind answering, if they don't go ahead with the 3-lane conversion and they don't expand the sidewalk clearing program, how will they mitigate those dangers to the kids without an island and with an uncleared sidewalk? Thank you for the abundance of time you've given me today. I really appreciate it, and I appreciate your careful consideration of this.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to comment on this item, item H3? So seeing no more comments, Commissioners, the recommended action is a motion to approve. Is there a motion? Just a little reminder here, and I know we had a little problem with this last time I asked for a motion, is that, and just for everyone who's watching, you can, for us to have a discussion, there has to be an item that has a motion and supported for us to have a discussion. So even if an item comes up that you are wholly opposed to, it doesn't indicate anything to go ahead and support the motion or make the motion and support it, and that's the time for discussion. You can vote against it after that. So I know sometimes there's a misunderstanding if someone says, I support the motion. That means you're supporting it. It doesn't necessarily mean that. It just means you're setting the stage for discussion, which we did have an issue related to that, and we flipped the motion on its head, so yes meant no. But anyway, that said, then back to this moment, is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion made by Commissioner Pradel.
Support.
Supported by Commissioner Hess. Discussion, commissioners.
Mayor.
Vice Mayor Duncan.
Hearing the public and our wonderful staff, conflicted. I don't want us to lose the funding. I think it's incredibly important that we keep those critical federal dollars, coming into our city. But gosh, $50K is never going to be worth the life of a child. And I'm hearing parents plead with us about a safe pathway forward, and I'm really, really concerned about the ifs. And I don't have children myself, but this is still a really incredibly important issue when we talk about safety. I live near a school, and I totally agree. If the sidewalks are not there or if they're not clear, kids are going to be in the street, and I'm really concerned about safety. I'm really concerned about safety.
Thank you. Commissioner Slavey.
So I agree with what Director Baker actually briefly mentioned when he first got to the podium about, let's not design at the dais. Totally don't want to be the engineer, Director Baker. That's all you and Dennis. For me, I think that as someone who's worked in government, who's worked in planning, who's worked with different grants, I am surprised how often, when you just simply ask questions and explore things, how much flexibility or opportunities there exist that you didn't know was there. And so for me, I guess, if I would have beat Commissioner Pradel to the mic, I probably would have made a motion to postpone until next meeting, simply for Director Baker to explore those options, because we never know. And I've surprised myself in thinking something is a done deal and there's definitely no wiggle room. And then I ask a question and, they say, oh, well, we could tweak this or we could do that. And so I think about how the timing has been protracted because of all these different delays at the state level. And so I can imagine, and also taking into consideration when we think about the engagement, this impacts a lot of different users, from dog walkers, people that live in the neighborhood, to people in that school community. And so I think, to hear that when we say we did that, the engagement after the design was done was simply the immediate residents on the street versus a larger town hall, doesn't necessarily mean we don't move forward with the project, but just tells me that I can understand why certain people that are users of this crosswalk may have felt like this was a shift they weren't aware of, or what have you, because it was done a long time ago, and it doesn't even seem at that time, in real time, we really followed up with robust engagement. So I appreciated what Director Baker kind of laid out as a plan, where we could do some additional public engagement just to raise the awareness among people on why we made these decisions, because potentially with more discussion with residents, a lot of these concerns might go away, which I think it's hard to maybe understand without the visual aids right here, and in this kind of structure, someone in the audience can understand why or why not we made these decisions like we did. So to me, I just thought that it sounds like if we postpone it to one more meeting, it's not going to have a delay on the receiving the funds. It will not jeopardize these funds. It will not jeopardize the contract. It may not even jeopardize the pre-construction meeting that's scheduled for March. And so I ask, we have the power to do this, you know, why not? Just to have the due diligence done, to send the message to the community that we are hearing their concerns, and that staff seems confident in having a plan to explore those options within that time. So those are my thoughts. I have no inclination to not move forward, you know, not support this project in its totality, because overall the message is people want something done there. I think we all want something done there, but you know, if this doesn't impact us getting the grant, you know, I think it's, let's explore those options, and maybe there are no options. I would just love to hear that from Director Baker by giving him and his staff a little bit more time to explore that. So those are my thoughts on the matter.
Thank you, Commissioner Slaby. Just Commissioner Pradle.
Director Baker, if I were to just yield some time here for a second, are you prepared to clarify about the 3 lanes versus 4 lanes? Sorry, I know you're like way back in the back and I'm putting you on the spot.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner. And just to make sure I understand the question, I believe we had a citizen comment asking when that Howard project was going to move forward. So we looked in the city's budget in 2026 CIP. That's our funding plan that was just approved. In that approved CIP, the Howard project 4-lane to 3-lane conversion is scheduled in 2028. It's funded at $1.6 million, and design is scheduled a year ahead of time in 2027. So that would be constructed in 2028. So that project, as it sits in the budget today, is funded and plans to move forward with construction in 2028.
It just wouldn't be this year. The reduction in lanes would not happen this year.
Correct. And this project that we're recommending in front of you would not be complete this year either.
Right.
And so I think that is certainly important to note that this project that we're recommending tonight, if approved tonight, construction would start in the fall of 2026 and would go into spring of 2027. The Howard Street project would then start in 2028 and complete in fall of 2028. And there's the other component we talked about, the streetlights. That would have to come in the future, but it is funded in your CIP. And then we talked about just overall maintenance programs, sidewalk snow removal. We continue to get better at that year over year over year. So just to kind of coalesce all the conversations, there's not one project in front of you tonight that's going to solve all those concerns. It's continuing to stay proactive and continuing to invest in these areas and all these different project categories that will come before the commission as individual items over the next few years, and being successful with those and completing all those on time. And as we get through that, in the fall of 2028, we would have a remarkably different intersection and roadway than we do today.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
I think City Manager Hankins and Director Baker, if it seems reasonable, I think we got quite a bit of correspondence today, and even just with work and everything, I haven't even had a chance to look at all the messages, respond to all those messages. I think we heard a lot tonight. It doesn't necessarily change my mind one way or the other of how I feel about the project, because I think that it sounds like there's a lot of really good progress, and I actually do feel a lot better after hearing a lot of the comments tonight. But I think it would go a long ways personally if we could even just have just one meeting to give the team time to have that communication and dialogue with residents, just to, you know, whether it be like, hey, you know, we're willing to meet out here by the crosswalk this day, this time, if anyone wants to come out and have conversation and point things out. I know that helps me a lot when I've done that with folks before, and I know folks from city staff have often been really great about doing that. But that would make me feel a little bit better, just to make sure that everybody has more time to educate themselves, visualize what we're talking about and whatnot. If it doesn't sounds like it's not going to necessarily screw up the grant. But I also recognize that's more resource intensiveness and whatnot as well. So that would be my preference, if we could just hold off one meeting to vote on it.
And I know there's a motion pending, or discussion on the motion, but we are able to take a look at the feedback we've received and have a conversation with the residents about it and come back after that if that's what this commission would like to do.
Commissioner Hess?
Sure. While we're kind of waiting to see what's going on with the motion here, I think that the clearing sidewalks issue doesn't have anything to do with where we shouldn't move a project because citizens aren't following the ordinance. We have an ordinance for sidewalk clearing. That is an awareness and an education that we have to take on as a city and make sure that those are done and make sure those sidewalks are cleared and those residents know that that's on them. So I think that's important to note as well, that we shouldn't not do this project because folks aren't doing their due diligence and clearing their sidewalks. There's a lot of education to go on here, and like I said before with the speed, please slow down, please obey the speed limit, especially in areas where there's schools. I think we work also with Kalamazoo Public Schools, and I think we have good dialogue with Kalamazoo Public Schools, and make sure that they are also working on educating both families and students about those crossings and how to cross those streets safely. But I would concur with postponing a motion here. And waiting for a week or for a few weeks and to getting more information.
Mayor Anderson, I had a question for staff. Can I ask a question?
Yes, please.
Director Baker, I wanted to do it before he left, but then you kept going, Chris.
Just getting the steps in.
I know he likes that. Okay. So, Director Baker, I love that it's already in the CIP. And so, correct me if I'm wrong. That would, like you said, in 2027, the design phase of that road diet would be initiated. And from my understanding, when we get into that design phase, whoever we contract with, they go do their research, they take a look, and then they provide maybe some options or whatever. And so we've seen in the past, we initially think that this street might look like this, but actually when we get into the design phase, actually evolves into something else a little bit, right? Like Kalamazoo Ave, where we're closing down that near Westnedge to Kalamazoo Ave. That wasn't the original design, but during the design phase and engagement, it certainly evolved, right? And so I guess I go back to the residents' concern around and considering Dennis's comments in the email, not to focus on the email, but, is there a possibility when we get into that design phase that the consultant that we work with comes back and says, hey, it needs to look like this than what we originally thought, and potentially doesn't go to a three-way, or it looks a little bit different that then, conflicts with the other safe routes to school project that we have? Wouldn't that be possible?
Certainly. To the commissioner's point, there's designs change all the time in projects, and so there's certainly elements of the project that could potentially change. There may be some things that we're not presently aware of right now. We've done a little bit of work on this, some preliminary work, how this would go together up at the top of the hill with Oakland. I know our engineers have been working on that. So there is, some design that's started, but to your point, Kalamazoo Avenue, even Michigan Avenue to that point, those designs have changed multiple times, several iterations of what those design concepts look like, and it's been, constant updates and changes based on input, safety factors, things we've learned, and so those designs are certainly fluid. So I think, certainly to your point, in 2027, when we go forward with the design phase for the Howard Street 4-lane to 3-lane conversion, there's going to be considerable public participation with that, and considerable opportunity to address any further outstanding issues that we have around safety and pedestrian safety in and around this neighborhood node area that includes the school.
And I guess I would just note too, during our discussion, is that since 2023, when that design was first put together, I think we've learned a considerable amount of things with different pilots and ways to engage the public around these traffic calming things that we may have not known at the time of designing this and engaging the public. And so, we're just where we're at based on the delays. It would have been done in 2024 if it wasn't for SHPO. But yeah, so I just think about all those things and would love to, again, reiterate that I think it would make a lot of sense for staff to at least take a couple weeks to explore options and then provide it back to us. Thank you.
Commissioner Wilson.
Yeah, I agree with my colleagues. I think it'll be very beneficial for us to take a couple weeks, ensure that our design is, is meeting the requirements for some of the feedback that we're receiving, to calm our neighbors' fears, and you made a good point, Commissioner Slavey, actually my point. I was going to say, in construction, designs change all the time, and you see design change orders all the time. So I just ask that we remain fluid in that design, phase, and be open to feedback.
Certainly, thank you.
Just, Mayor, point of clarification: would you like as a commission, a presentation of the information? I've heard discussion about visuals and things like that, or is this just a meeting with the community and coming back and reporting back on that?
What do we have? What do we have on the CAL next time?
I don't know. Clerk Borling might know the answer to that. Just a quick question also, Manager Hankins, is a couple weeks sufficient time to either do any evaluation or put a presentation together either? I mean, we're somehow assuming that is a sufficient time frame. Thoughts about that, Director Baker?
Yeah, I think staff, one of our first orders of action tomorrow morning is going to be a phone call with MDOT and understand what our timeline is. I think having that call first will give us some perspective on do we have to put something together to go out with the community on Friday, or do we have some time for something more formal like a CAL presentation or something else? So I think if you allow us some room to work with the city manager on that and then come back with some options based on our conversations with MDOT.
That's helpful. I appreciate that. Commissioner Prado.
It looks like on the second we have an economic development update for the CAL meeting.
Right. Okay, great. All right. So here, just as we kind of move in this Robert's Rules world here with this, I was thinking, Commissioner Prado? Oh, I thought you were leaning into your microphone. Okay. We got a couple options. I mean, the sense of the commission seems to be, don't want to move forward on this tonight with an approval. So one option is to the person who made the motion, person supported the motion, withdraw that motion, and then we could basically postpone this to another time. One version of that is to postpone to a date certain, but I don't want to do that and pick that date certain and then have to do that change again, so we don't really know what our time frame is on this. So what's the sense here from the commission? Do we want to, are people comfortable withdrawing the motion to support this action? That would be made by the person who made the motion, the person that seconded that motion. And then I don't think we'd really have to take further action that if we're not postponing to a date certain. Assistant City Attorney, thoughts on that?
So if you vote no on the motion to approve that's currently, it does not get approved. It could be brought back at a later date. It doesn't have to be a date certain. It would just be brought back. If you withdraw and do a motion to postpone, then it would be to the next regularly scheduled meeting.
Thank you. Commissioner Pradel?
I would certainly be willing to withdraw the motion. I think, did I make the motion? I'd be willing to withdraw the motion, but I think I would like a time certain date, just so it doesn't prolong forever. And one idea, I was wondering if it would be okay, Assistant City Attorney, would be, could we motion to say to vote on no later than the third meeting in March? So that way, you would give, well, that's right. I'm sorry, the third week in March. The meeting, it's the third week in March. So that way it's like you have 2 meetings available, but if it works out to vote on it in the first one, we're able to. But if there is a little bit more need of time, you'd have that wiggle room. Would that be okay to motion that way?
A motion to postpone, it'd have to go to the next scheduled meeting. So it can't be postponed.
Gotcha.
If it doesn't, then it essentially dies.
But I don't think we have to make a motion to postpone. We could withdraw the motion and just, we're not acting on it. And then it's just, it says it wasn't acted on this evening. Is that a response to that?
Well, if you vote no on the motion to approve, then it's not approved, it's not acted on tonight. So it's not signed, it wasn't approved tonight, then staff could bring that back with more information at a different date. It wouldn't be a date certain, it would be brought back later.
So your suggestion is to vote no, or just not taking action on it at all?
On the pending motion to approve. So if you vote no on the motion to approve, it's not approved, but could be brought.
But what happens if he withdraws and then we just sit?
Then there's been no action taken. So
Yeah, I think that's one option, right?
Yeah, that could be an option.
Sure. So, yes, Commissioner Pradel.
I was going to just ask City Manager Hankins, what's your preference, knowing what you and the team need?
Thank you, Commissioner. Our main question is timeline, how the logistics get us there. Not as concerned about, but if we have through March 16th, which I believe is the date, getting some looks out, I think that's going to be enough time for us to come back with what you've asked for.
Cool. All right. So how does this work exactly?
So, correct me if I'm wrong, Assistant Attorney, so we could take a step to withdraw the motion, and the person supporting the motion would withdraw their support, and then we could take an action to postpone this, but you're saying that the regularly scheduled meeting, the next regularly scheduled meeting, which is not the 16th, right? Do you have language for what the postponement motion would look like?
It would be postponed to the next regularly scheduled business meeting.
So we wouldn't want to do that. So it would be your proposal was to postpone it to no later than our second meeting in March. That's what you're thinking about.
If I heard correct, if I could ask a question from the City Attorney, Assistant City Attorney. I think what I heard said is if you vote no, we can bring it back whenever we wanted to. We will commit to you from a staff perspective that it would be on the 16th agenda. And right now, the outstanding motion is what?
To approve.
To approve. So if the answer is no, then we get to bring it back, if I heard correctly.
Okay, fine.
That's what I heard.
But also, we could withdraw, and the same thing holds true.
Yes.
I think I like the idea of just withdrawing it because I'm worried that if we vote no on it, then the message that goes out to community is like the commission votes no on, school safety measures and that sort of thing. So I don't want that to be perception.
So you've already offered and support?
I withdraw my support.
Okay.
Vice Mayor, didn't you have something to say? Oh, I'm just wondering how would I do that? Do I just say that I withdraw motion and that's sufficient enough? Okay. Okay. I'd like to withdraw my motion, please.
I withdraw my support.
And we don't have to take any further action on this. So there we go. Thanks for all the detailed questions and discussion. I appreciate that very much of my colleagues here. So we're now down to reports and legislation. City Manager Hankins, do you have a report?
Yes, Mayor. First, I would ask the commission for a full report to direct you to the report that I submitted with tonight's agenda, but I'll call out a few key points from that report and some others. During the month of March, the city will transition to a more optimized corrosion control approach. That is an approach that will be tailored to Kalamazoo's groundwater chemistry. And this new approach is basically moving from a polyphosphate to an orthophosphate, and hopefully you know what those are, approach, and it helps to provide a protective lining inside our pipes and reduce the potential of metals. It'll be rolled out starting this month, and it'll coincide with upgrades to all our 13 water treatment plants. So I thought I'd share that with you tonight. Another water-related update. Typical for this time of year, we're experiencing some water breaks, and this is the repeated freezing and thawing cycles. And so we have a team of staff who are working round the clock to first and foremost address those breaks when they occur. But also we have a plan for upgrading the aging infrastructure with more durable materials. So we're being proactive in prioritizing high-risk areas when we do those amendments and changes to our current materials. So appreciate the community's patience as our crews work to get these things implemented and done. A few other things, I've continued some community conversations, I'll call it, just spending time in the community, meeting with individuals. I had the fortune of meeting with the NAACP at their general meeting this month. It was a warm welcome, and one of the speakers presented some information on the underutilized services for our veterans, especially those who are unhoused. And so it was an enlightening conversation to understand that there are services available to folks, and they're underutilized either by choice or by not having awareness of those available services. So something to keep in mind. Also spent some time in some other community events with Albert White's bust unveiling by artist James Palmore. A successful African-American builder in Kalamazoo was Albert White, contributing to Kalamazoo Central High, as well as the administration building at Western Michigan, among others. So that was a very, my daughter and I actually got to attend that, and she's 4 for some of you who know, so she had a good time up to a point, right?
And got a cookie.
Yes, she did have her cookie. Attended a Bronson-sponsored event, Afros, Fades, and Razor Blades. It was an event that explored the significance of barbershops in the African-American community with healthcare, so a good dialogue and a lot of interactive conversation. It was very well attended. If it comes back, I recommend that anyone who's here take a shot and go and see it. Got a chance also to spend time with Pastors on Patrol. They have a very commendable approach to trying to make sure that they bridge the gap between the relationships with our public safety and the community. So I welcome that approach, and hopefully that can spread to many city departments as we work to build trust with our community. So just a few things, and I won't take much more of your time, but thank you for the opportunity to share those updates.
Thank you, Manager Hankins. I appreciate it. We are now at the time on our agenda for commissioner comments. Or is there anyone who wants to provide any commissioner comments this evening? Commissioner Slaby.
I just wanted to say that shout out to Director Baker and everyone that works in public services for the work that they're doing during winter. I know many of us have already said this, but I just want to reiterate that I see your trucks out all hours of the day. And so I just appreciate that we are able to provide that responsive service because, that impacts people, again, also at all hours of the night with access to water and just being able to, do what they need to do. So thank you. And I also wanted to say that I really appreciate being able to attend all of the Design It meetings. I think I've been to all of them except for just one. I tried to do them all, but just one I missed. And so I've enjoyed it. I appreciated seeing our city manager out at the latest one at Arcadia, and really being able to see our new city manager present out in the community. So that's been great as you settle in and meet with everyone. And so that's my comments.
Thank you, Commissioner Slaby. Other comments, commissioners? Commissioner Hess?
Sure, I'll go. So speaking of Manager Hankins, it's a welcome to Kalamazoo. It's MLive seems to have picked up the wonderful things that you're doing and being out in the community, and it's noticed, and you are certainly a presence at many events, and I think people are beginning to know you and understand your care for the community and your want and need to continue to make Kalamazoo the best that it can be. So thank you for being out there. One of the events you were at was the ribbon cutting for Old School, the new bar here on the Old Union, as we call it, on the mall. And the reason it's called Old School is that Jim, the owner, wants us to go in and put our phones away and talk to each other old school, right? And just engage. You can play skee ball, you can play pinball, you can play pool, but don't talk on your phones. So it's great. They have a DJ. It's a lively atmosphere, and I'd encourage anyone to get down there and any place on the mall, and all the folks, all the entities up and down Michigan Ave, and then also the downtown brand launch. You were there too. Manager Hankins, man, where do I go when you're not there? So the downtown brand, if you've noticed, downtown there's a new logo on the flags, on the recycling and waste containers, and it's going to be used to brand downtown Kalamazoo, because downtown is the heart of our region. It's the heart of our region, not just Kalamazoo City, not just Kalamazoo County. It's the 7 counties in Southwest Michigan. Kalamazoo is one of the most vibrant, upbeat cities here, and that's where we gather and we share. Right, and even tonight we approved plans for 111 Portage Street, where we're going to add 11 housing units downtown. We've got a lot of good energy and good things happening downtown, and we're waiting on the street construction, and I'm excited about all of that. Lastly, happy Lunar New Year! Starting tomorrow, it's the year of the horse. In Chinese New Year. Thank you to the Chinese Association of Greater Kalamazoo and the sponsors, and to Lynn and Charles Zhang for a wonderful community celebration on Saturday night at Chenery Auditorium that highlighted just the talent and the amazing work of the Chinese community that's unfolding here in Kalamazoo. So that was wonderful. Let's celebrate the Year of the Horse.
Thank you, Commissioner Hess. Commissioner Bradle?
Thank you, Mayor. I also wanted to just echo thanks to City Manager Hankins. I think some observations I've made about you so far is, so I've noticed at the Design It meetings, I mean, I'm not meaning to look, but I can't help because, you're new, and it feels like you've been here for months already, and I know it's been a very short amount of time, but the common thread that I've noticed with my interactions with you that I really appreciate is at the Design It meetings, I'll look over and I'll see you sitting on the corner of a stage talking to just one resident one-on-one. And I had the chance to, I felt especially blessed because I got to go ride around in the car with City Manager Hankins and COO Lamb for the point in time count. Gosh, was that last week or two, I don't know, week or two ago. And again, just an observation, I mean, this is nature for both you and Laura, but again, not meaning to look, get in your business, but I couldn't help it. But just noticing the authenticity that you can have a conversation with a person sleeping that night in a car and just be an authentic self and treat them like a human being with dignity and respect. here tonight have a city manager report sitting on our table with thorough updates that super helpful and useful that then we can use to be better equipped to do our job. And then lastly, just the fact that you're using your time and your seat to authentically share what you are doing and what people should care and know about, which I think is powerful because, again, when you lead a city of almost 80,000 people, people want to know that you've got your hands on the wheel. And I have very much felt that since you've been here. So I want to thank you for how intentionally you're trying to take a listening posture and being out in the community, because I know that cannot be easy with all the acclamation that you have, not only like moving here as one of our newest residents, but also, learning so much about our city and the City Hall. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner Prano. Vice Mayor Duncan.
Yeah, thank you. So I want to thank the parents that showed up tonight to speak about the safety issues concerning the road. Thank you so much for coming in, just putting this on our radar so that we can advocate for you and your family and your children. Also, happy Black History Month, Kalamazoo. You might not hear it, and we won't be here for the rest of the month. So, cousins, I just want to tell you happy Black History Month. And again, what a wonderful city we have. Thank you, Mayor, for the proclamations today. Means a lot to me personally. One, to be able to read the proclamation for the NAACP and for this city to be so vocal about the contributions that Black folks have made to the city and in the country. So it's incredibly important every month, but especially during February. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Yes, Manager Hankins.
Thank you. I couldn't sit here and not acknowledge that the reports you have in front of you, the ability that I have to be in the community and to engage with folks is because we have a wonderful team of staff. And I didn't create that report, so, but have a team in communications, have city manager's office staff. We work as a team, and they've allowed me to do the things that I need to do to help to support the initiatives that you want to see made. So, thank you.
Thank you, Manager. Comments, I want to tie a couple things together here, and I guess I will also start with Albert J. White, who was recognized, long overdue recognition that happened. Is going to be a bust that's going to be present here in the Kalamazoo Public Library just down the street. And for me, I did get a cookie too, by the way, but for me, seriously, one thing that really connected me to that individual and that event was the fact that I spent a good chunk of my life as a masonry contractor. And I was in the union, actually, for a period of time when I was a masonry contractor. And unlike many other things in the world, masonry has not changed that much in the last 100 years. It is really a job that's done by hand, brick by brick, block by block, actual human, in some cases, back-breaking labor that people have done for years and years and years to build things that last. And for example, if you want to watch that right now in a street that gets traveled a great deal, you can just come down West Main and you can watch the block structures that are being built for the elevator and for the stairwells in that building. Once again, block by block, by hand, people doing that work. And somehow there's just something about that. I've spent a lot of time doing that. So did Albert J. White, and built a lot of buildings around Kalamazoo, many of which no longer are standing. But if you want to go at least and witness one, it's the former Illinois Envelope building, which is off of Alcott, which is now occupied by the county Department of Health and Community Services. That is a building that was constructed by by Albert White, not by himself, but by a whole contracting, a team that he had that he brought together to do that work. And I think that is worth, if nothing else, just going and looking at that and remembering that every brick you see in that wall was laid by a human being building that building. And that whole, I want to use that as a metaphor just to tie back to something else, and that is this, that, I think Kalamazoo is a special place, and perhaps everyone that lives somewhere thinks it's a special place, but I actually think we're a little step up in that in terms of Kalamazoo being a special place. And we are in a world right now where things that make us special and tie us together somehow feel like they're being attacked and they're being questioned, and some of that foundation is being kicked out of the values that we believe that we all hold together. And actually the values that we even express when we're doing our Pledge of Allegiance here in terms of the actual language that's in that pledge. And I think because of that challenging time, even in a special place like Kalamazoo right now, we're feeling a little upset and angry and disoriented, and some of our human response to that is to respond in an angry way. And I think that now that we have this vehicle of social media, and I feel sensitive to my commission colleagues up here that in certain instances, making a comment on the dais here, Commissioner Pradel, for some years ago, the ways we're all involved in the community, that there can be a reaction. And I think it's challenging right now where that reaction can turn into an immediate angry post online, which can then be shared, and before you know it, we have a wave of immediate angry posts. And you can have a thick skin about it, but it's still something to deal with, and everyone who sits up here has volunteered to be in that space where whether it's your community activities, whether it's the votes or you make, or the decisions that you make up here, or things you say in the community, where somehow you can now find yourself into that fire hose of negative posts. And so I'm sorry, commissioners, I know we all asked for that, but I still feel sympathetic to that. And I just want to say back to this is that I think we're above that, Kalamazoo. I really think Kalamazoo is a special place, and we just need to remember something, and that is that if we want to build something, we do that by working together. We build that not by pushing people off the scaffolding, and maybe it's not a fast thing, I get it, and sometimes, walls have to be rebuilt, but we build that action by action, block by block, brick by brick, when we're building the kind of beloved community that we want this to be, where we live. So that is a positive action, and I would hope and kindly request that when those of us in the community that care about this community think about, hey, I'm going to send something to that person that I think is, deserves to be called out online. We just take a moment and think about, is this contributing to building the community that we want? I'm not saying we're all going to agree on everything. That'd be an assumption that would be, unfounded. But you take a moment to think about that, and you think, what can I do in this moment to build the community that I want to see here? What can I do? What is the one thing I can do that's going to build that foundation for this to be a better place? And I know this crew up here is focused on that, and I know that people come in and comment here on the commission are focused that as well. So I'm just saying, let's do this together. Let's, as much as possible, let's support each other in a way that builds towards that community that we all want to see. I love you, Kalamazoo. We're adjourned.
Amen.